read by Dale Grothman. The formula was a simple equation, but Caddo had to have it, for knowing its answer meant he would rule the universe. Oridin's Formula by R. Winterbotham. Oridin the recluse listened to the threat wirelessed from the spaceship that was hoving to in the landing orbit around the planetoid Azer. "I have a bead on your atmosphere plant," said the snarling voice. "One false move and I'll blast it to stardust." Oridin shrugged as he heard the words. One more fool had come to Azer looking for the secret that the recluse of the asteroids was supposed to possess. "Your threats are unnecessary, stranger," Oridin replied in the microphone of his radio. "Everyone is welcome here as long as he behaves. I have ways of dealing with those who don't." "I'm warning you," came the voice again, "that I will stand for no foolishness. I'll kill you if you try to resist." Oridin smiled. "Land, stranger. You need not fear me." The hermit arose and went to the galley of the warm little house that seemed to grow from solid rocks of the tiny planet. He pressed a button, waited a second, and then opened a small compartment. In the box was a steaming pot of coffee, freshly made by Oridin's automatic cook. Outside the transparent shelter, the air grew blue from the reflection of landing rockets. Oridin glanced to the leveled surface on which the ship was coming to rest. He saw a turret trained on the little house. Oridin was not afraid. The visitor probably would be interesting. Even a recluse can grow lonesome on a minor planet. A figure emerged from the spaceship. He wore an oxygen helmet, although Oridin plentifully supplied the planetoid with artificial atmosphere from a small plant at the North Pole. The stranger did not believe that Oridin would not resist. Again, Oridin smiled. Deep in the rocks of Azer were guns that could have blasted the visitor 1,000 times, had Oridin wished, but there was nothing clever about blowing a foe to pieces. The foe too often was killed before he sensed defeat. Oridin enjoyed an equal battle, or even one against odds. "Open up," Cardo snapped, "or I'll blow my way in. Open up, I tell you, or I'll burn my way in," demanded the visitor. "He's certainly not deceiving me as to his intentions," Oridin decided. The recluse pushed a button on the wall, and a giant gate swung outward, admitting the stranger. The fellow was tall and as muscular as Oridin himself, but the spacesuit and the gaping blaster he held in his hand made the visitor seem much more formidable. Oridin himself was dressed in bell-bottom slacks and a loosely fitting slip-over coat. His beard softened his countenance and made him seem quite gentle, except for a certain gleam in his eyes that seemed to warn that Oridin loved a contest, and this would seem to be a deadly contest. Oridin bowed. "You are welcome, stranger," he said. "Take off your helmet, for the air is pure. Put aside your gun, for I am unarmed, and I do not intend to harm you." The stranger hesitated uncertainly. "No tricks, Oridin," he warned. "Tricks?" Oridin laughed tauntingly. "You are not very confident for a man of your caliber. I have heard of you often, Caddo Valexis. They say you have conquered whole nations single-handed, and yet you are afraid of an unarmed hermit." "I'm not afraid of you," Caddo said in a tone that hinted he was. Caddo removed his helmet and holstered his blaster, but Oridin noticed that the terrestrial giant did not move the firing button to safe. "Will you have some coffee?" Oridin asked. "It will refresh you after your long trip, and you must have had a long trip, for we are in a very sparsely populated part of the sky." Oridin lifted the pot and poured the brown, steaming liquid into a thick metal mug. Caddo waved it aside. "I have no time." "Do not be alarmed," Oridin said. "The patrol will not be near Azer for 3 days." Oridin sat down. His fingers felt under the arm of the chair, where a series of buttons controlled other mechanisms in the room. Caddo had relaxed his watchfulness. "In 3 days I'll be well toward the other side of the solar system," Caddo said. Oridin lifted his eyebrows. "Toward the Earth? You have undertaken something this time?" "Yes," Caddo said. "It's the Earth I am after. I have all I want of the outlying planets and planetoids. You can capture 100 of them and be no better off than you were at first. But if you capture Earth, you can rule the universe." Oridin touched one of the buttons. A tiny pinhole in the wall of the room seemed to blink. There was a blinding flash, and the smell of burned leather permeated the place. Caddo gave a cry of alarm and sprang back, knocking over his chair. He was on his feet, holding his blaster in his hand in a second. Across the top of his helmet was a scorched streak. "You tried to kill me!" Caddo screamed. "You dirty swine!" Oridin's lips parted in a smile as he looked without fear into the mouth of the trembling weapon. "Don't underestimate yourself, Caddo," he said. "The hot beam was only a warning, something to let you know that I could kill you any time I wished. Even now, before you could squeeze the trigger on the weapon, I could cause certain things to happen. No, you are safe, Caddo. I could cause you to die if I wished, but you are interesting, a dangerous man. It would be better accomplished for me to give you a punishment you deserve." The fear that shone in Caddo's eyes faded away. For a moment he watched Oridin. Then he laughed. "So it's that kind of game, is it? I can play it too. Your threats do not frighten me, nor am I afraid of your hot beam. Look!" Caddo thrust his arm toward the path of the beam. There was a puff of smoke as the tremendous heat vaporized particles of dust on the leather sleeves. Then nothing happened. "I have a neutralizing force powered with a small battery in my clothing," Caddo said. "Foolishly, I did not have it turned on a moment ago. But you can't hurt me now." Oridin shrugged. "I am still not afraid of you, Caddo. If you had come here to loot, you would have killed me long ago. But what you want is something you cannot gain by killing me. What is it?" "You are going to give me the secret that will make me the master of the Earth and the master of the universe," Caddo announced. Oridin poured himself a mug of coffee. "I knew you did not want gold, although Azair is filthy with the stuff," he said. "But what secret have I that's so powerful?" "The discovery," Caddo said. "I have many." Oridin blinked toward the wall, and the pinhole of light blinked out. "I want the secret of the universe." Caddo spoke tensely. "Come, don't be so melodramatic," Oridin chided. "The universe is full of secrets." "You're stalling. You know what I mean." "I think I do," Oridin agreed. "My erratic experiments have revealed a certain mathematical function, J, which theoretically opens the door to action without probability. Is that what you want, Caddo? The value of J?" "The mathematical bombsight," Caddo said. "It removes probability and makes certainty of everything. With my calculations based on certainty, I'll be fate itself. I can conquer the world, chain the universe, and govern creation." Oridin laughed quietly. Alexander, Caesar, Napoleon, Genghis Khan, and Hitler spoke those words, and they were willing to bargain with the devil himself to make them come true, he said. "I suppose I am the devil, for I know the answer, and I can tell you the answer for a price." "You'll give it to me for nothing." Caddo patted the blaster, now in the holster at his side. "Is that your only offer?" Oridin asked, still wearing an amused half-smile. "It is." Oridin rose and moved toward the safe under 2 clocks on the wall across the room. One of these clocks gave the terrestrial days, hours, and minutes according to general meridian time. The other registered the 4-hour rotation of Azair. Wait! Cato halted Oridin. No tricks! Give me the combination and I'll open it. Oridin turned to the space pirate. The safe is unlocked. The formula is inside. Cato's eyes betrayed his suspicion. The most valuable secret in the world is in an unlocked safe. Warily, Cato stepped forward. He hesitated, wondering if even his neutralizing force was enough to protect him. There's no danger. Go ahead. Help yourself, Oridin urged. Cato was desperate. He touched the handle of the door. It was unlocked. He flung it open. Inside the safe was a single sheet of white paper. Cato seized it eagerly. His eyes widened in amazement as he read. The certainty of success in any course of operations, expressed in mathematical terms, represents the sum of all factors, beginning at the starting point, which must be described as real zero, and ending with the objective, also reduced to a real numerical value. The constant of certainty, J, can be the determining factor which leads an operation from the beginning to the objective. Cato read the paper and reread it again and again. Is this all of it? He asked, turning to Oridin. Every bit, Oridin replied. The formula is simple, like the one to determine the sum of an arithmetical progression. The first number of the progression plus the last number multiplied by the number of terms in the progression and divided by 2. In your case, the progression lies between what you have and what you want. The certainty of getting it is the sum of all the factors. Cato sat down in a chair at the desk. He seemed to forget his suspicions of Oridin, who had placed a stack of paper beside him. Cato was engrossed in the formula, and Cato, as a mathematician, knew that everything in the world could be expressed in figures. What would Napoleon or Hitler have given for this formula? The beginning is zero, Cato spoke aloud. Which is different from a mathematical zero, Oridin said. I might say that zero, like absolute vacuum, never occurs. Even if we have 2 apples and eat 2 of them, the atoms of the apples continue to exist. In the formula, you have a small fraction instead of 0. It serves the same purpose. If you multiply a number x by 0, the answer is 0. Multiplying a fraction approaching 0, 0.000000001, by another number, and that number approaches 0 too. If that number is a fraction, it will be even closer to 0 than our real 0. In fact, we are dealing with trans-zero numbers, just like the trans-finite numbers discovered by Gregor Cantor. Yes, yes, Cato said eagerly. He picked up a pencil. He scribbled furiously. His objective was all the power in the world expressed in ergs, all the gold in the world expressed in dollars, all of the land expressed in acres, the people in individuals. Oridin moved softly behind him. A multiple calculator made its appearance in the room. Paper flew from under Cato's pencil. Sweat poured from his space-browned face. The 2 clocks on the wall recorded the turning of the Earth and the planetoid Azer. Cato forgot about Oridin. He forgot about everything except the figures that revolved in his brain. Oridin moved out into the warm, artificial atmosphere of his planetoid. He was a recluse again. He was alone. A momentary contact with the greed and avarice of the human race had been wiped away. Far out in space was a glow of rockets. A ship was going to land. It seemed only a short time since Cato had landed, but that was 3 terrestrial days ago. This was the patrol. I've a prisoner for you, Oridin informed the captain. It's Cato. Cato? He's the #1 universal enemy. Man, you'll grow rich with the rewards offered on 9 planets for his capture." "You can have the reward," Oridin said. "Take him away. He's a nuisance." They found Caddo in the lounge of Oridin's house, chewing on a book of logarithms. His mind was gone. He could only babble figures. His fingers twitched with cramps from writing with the pencil and punching the keys of the calculating machine. Every spark of vitality had been taken from his body. The batteries of his force armor had been burned out. "What's the matter with him?" the captain asked. "He wanted too much," Oridin replied. "I gave him a simple little formula for success, but the formula ceases to be simple as the definition for success grows more demanding. Had he sought perfection, Caddo would have seen that even this was unrecognizable, although the certainty is only halfway to infinity." "Sorry, Mr. Oridin, but I'm not a mathematician," the captain said. "There's nothing difficult in the formula. It proves that certainty is unrecognizable. You'll have to admit that a goal, to be reached, has to follow a path, and that path is determined by 2 points. The beginning is one, and the second one makes the ultimate objective certain. Therefore, the second point is certainty. But certainty is unrecognizable." Oridin brought forth his formula and allowed the captain to read it. The patrol officer blinked his eyes and scratched his head. Oridin wrote his formula out. "J is certainty, A our starting point, and 1 is unity or perfection," Oridin explained. "Our starting point is close to 0, but not 0. But for convenience, we'll say that it's a fraction so close that we can call it 0. Then certainty, J, is 1/2 of infinity, which you'll have to agree does not approach infinity and may well be within the realm of human comprehension, although we will not recognize perfection because we do not know what the number is halfway to infinity." Caddo overlooked the fact that he went further and further into the trans-infinity with each number he added to his equation, for there are an infinity of numbers between any 2 whole numbers, and any 2 fractions, and their sum is always infinity. The patrol captain already was muttering to himself, and Oridin hurried him out of the house and into the patrol ship with his prisoner. After the spacecraft had gone, Oridin returned to his living quarters and replaced his formula in the locked safe. He cleaned the litter made by Caddo and sat down. Once again, Oridin was a recluse, and he would remain so until someone else had a dream of conquering the universe. The end of Oridin's Formula by R. Winterbotham.